Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Here comes another one, boys. This is going to be another one of those more serious, current event, political, whatever you want to call it, episodes of Red Eye Raw. So if that's not your thing, maybe don't watch this one, as I always say. You disagree? That's fine, that's how I am. I don't hate you for disagreeing with me. I have plenty of friends who I do not align with at all politically, believe it or not. But today we'll be talking about 1984. Good book, great book. Decent movies, too. And I will be clear, I may be slightly hyperbolic with this, but I genuinely feel that this is the trajectory things are going at. So, although some of this may be a slight exaggeration and loose interpretation, I think that many things that Orwell said in 1984 have become true. Like 100%. First off, he talked about the telescreen, which is always watching us, right? The telescreen, it's, always watching you, monitoring you. People voluntarily do that. People fucking live stream themselves going out and committing crimes and then question when they get fucking arrested by it. Not to mention the fact that we always have cameras on us. I mean, security cameras are everywhere we go. You're most likely always being listened to. Facebook knows when you poop. Like, it's able to keep track of your habits so much that it knows that. You'll be talking about something like for instance, I said something about wrestling once, and then, like, a couple days later, got bombarded with wrestling stuff on my Facebook, like on the ads that Facebook gives me. So, I do know that Facebook likes to listen to everything you say and do. All the time. Another thing that 1984 had was this thing called the Ministry of Truth. Okay, now this is where things are going to get very divisive, I want to say. I personally 100% feel like what I'm about to say is 100% legitimately true. However, keep in mind I'm coming at this from my lens and my perspective. If you're unfamiliar with what the Ministry of Truth is in 1984, it's the organization, the government organization specifically within it, and the real-life counterpart, I'm not going to use the government as an example, although there are elements that overlap. But what I'm going to say is, in 1984, there's the Ministry of Truth, which they distort, like, the narrative. Like, they delete anything that disagrees with it. They burn books. They lie and say that what they say is 100% true. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia, not your Asia. Big Brother, which obviously isn't true, because that's the thing in the book, is they constantly switch back and forth to which one they're at war at, and then they just lie and say they've always been at war with that one, and the other one's always been their ally, and they switch back and forth multiple times in the book. Big Brother doubled the chocolate ration yesterday, when actually he halved the chocolate ration, but, they have to lie and pretend that it's a positive thing. That's the media! That's the news media. They twist and turn everything to fit whatever narrative their network is going for. Like CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News. And Fox News does tend to go on a different side than CNN, MSNBC. I will say that I do personally watch a little bit of all of them to try and get different sources. Like, here's the thing. Like I said, I have to take in multiple sources from multiple different political views to even get any semblance of truth, because you gotta find the middle ground. But, yeah, the news, they twist and turn the narratives to be whatever they want. I would also say Twitter kind of falls in with the Ministry of Truth. Because what the Ministry of Truth is they delete anything that's, like, against their narrative. And Twitter constantly bans anyone who doesn't align politically with them 110%. And it's not just Twitter, it's like all big tech companies, Facebook, this one, all of them. And the concept of being unpersoned, someone being so bad and offensive that they must be erased from all history. That's cancel culture, dude! That's 100% real. And I think the Ministry of Truth is the one who unpersons people, although I think the Ministry of Love is also part of that. So, I mean, granted, we haven't gone Ministry of Love yet. We don't yet have the Ministry of Love. At least not in the West. But I won't be surprised if we do someday. But yeah, cancel culture, it's also kind of part of the Ministry of Truth, unpersoning people. Burning books is both literal and figurative, it happens. Like, people will not want to read or have anything offensive, like, episodes of shows get pulled off of things. Like, not the biggest deal in the world, but it's sort of digital book burning in a way. Like, a lot of episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia got pulled from Hulu because of the blackface stuff in it, right? Originally, HBO Max pulled Gone with the Wind, but then they put it back up with a disclaimer. Now, granted, I think that if you want to compromise, the disclaimer is perfectly fine. I think disclaimers are not a big deal. I'm all for if people want to put disclaimers, I don't think they're that big a deal. I don't think they're necessary, but I think it's a good compromise. You know, there was that episode of Faulty Towers that got pulled, and then John Cleese basically told them they were fucking stupid, so then they put it back up. Because they missed the whole point. Because a lot of this stuff is satire, mocking the stuff that they get removed for. Like, the blackface in Always Sunny in Philadelphia is mocking blackface. Like, that's the whole point, is it's saying, this is stupid, and they're having the whole conversation, you know, is it inherently offensive? And that's a whole other conversation. But they're parodying it, because they don't play it up as a good thing. The episode, like the Lethal Weapon one, D. Reynolds' Raising America's Youth, or whatever it's called. That episode literally ends with a kid coming to school with blackface, and then they realized, oh shit, we encouraged him to do this, and then Charlie gets, of course, fired because that happened. Even Emmanuel Goldstein is kind of real. If you don't know what Emmanuel Goldstein is, what happens is the party, which is what the authoritarian group in 1984 is referred to as, created this boogeyman called Emmanuel Goldstein that they have to dedicate 2 minutes out of every day to hate on, you know, something called the 2 minutes hate. That's Donald Trump, 100%. The media, everything the guy says, the guy could cure cancer and AIDS in the same day, and the media would suddenly come out and say, well, you know, AIDS and cancer was a good thing, and he had no reason to, and he had no right to cure them. You know, that's the kind of mental gymnastics we have. I'm, of course, exaggerating slightly, but I could see that happening. Like, you know, Emmanuel Goldstein, they had the 2 minutes hate. Now, with Donald Trump, CNN's on a 24-hour hate. You tune to CNN. Literally, like, 99.9% of every fucking thing you'll find on there is, Donald Trump said this, Donald Trump did this, this is Donald Trump's fault, the country's in trouble, here's why it's Donald Trump's fault, you know, that kind of shit. That's all it is like, they have to, everything is his fault. He is the real-life Emmanuel Goldstein now. It's ridiculous just how similar 1984 is to now. Another thing that is literally taken right out of there. There are people arguing 2 plus 2 can equal 5. No! Fuck you! We ain't playing that game. That is literally a major thing in 1984, is 2 plus 2 equals whatever the party wants it to equal. Like, they tell Winston, 2 plus 2 equals 5. And then he says, no, it's 4, and they shock him, and they torture him. And they're like, how many fingers do you see? 2 plus 2 equals 5. How many do you see? And he's like, I see 4. They torture him again. How many do you see? And he's like, I want to see 5. And he's like, do you really want to see it, or do you just want to say that you see it? Really, I want to see it, because they torture him so much. And then he, like, hallucinates and sees it, and then he's like, 2 plus 2 is 5. And then they torture him again. And it's like, wait, what? And it's like, no, 2 plus 2 equals whatever the party wants it to equal. 2 plus 2 is 5 is literally like the most Orwellian thing you hear people spouting now. Because you also hear people saying that the concept of fucking math is racist. Fuck you! Go 2 plus 2 yourself, you fucking 6. There you go. How's that for racism? It's ridiculous. Like, it is 100% real. And as I said, there is some government overlap from time to time where the governments do have some Orwellian-type stuff. Coronavirus lockdowns, for instance. Whether or not they were a good idea, I do think they were inherently authoritarian and overreached in several areas. Some areas, not so much. That's the beauty of states, is different states lock down to different degrees. Some states didn't lock down at all. Sweden didn't lock down at all. And they're doing fine now. They had a high death count at first. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Unfortunately, coronavirus was a tough one. There was no right answer, and so I think that some degree of lockdown might have been necessary, but there was definitely a lot of overreach in several areas. But yeah, George Orwell was an insightful guy. He absolutely was. And we are increasingly entering an Orwellian world. And it scares me. It does. I don't want a world like that. And that's why I've been much more active in, like, you know, following politics and news and, like, keeping up with that kind of stuff. I myself have been following that way more, because I used to hate politics. I did. I absolutely despise. I actually have kind of grown to like them. It's weird. I've kind of started liking it, because I'll have discussions with people on the opposite side who say things that don't agree with me, and we'll have civil conversations. Those people are rare nowadays, so whenever I encounter them, it's always fun to talk to someone who does not politically agree with me, and we're still cool with each other, because that's what we should be doing. We should be talking to each other, not attacking each other. It's ridiculous. But, the 2 minutes hate that they see on CNN every day makes a lot of people go nuts and start attacking each other. And I'm not saying it's completely one-sided, it's certainly not, but I definitely do think it is unbalanced to one side being much worse than the other. Hint, hint, riots, but, anyway, I think that's all for today. Orwell, smart cookie. And we are getting closer and closer to living in that world. And, I don't like that. Toodles.